Hello, and welcome back to ClearCast, the real estate fintech podcast. This is episode 17.
Whoa, they haven't canceled us yet.
I know. This episode is going to be a fun one. Later on in this episode, we've got Pat McLoughlin from Diggs, the CEO and co-founder of Diggs. But before we get into that, I should first introduce my friend and colleague, Kenon Chen. Kenon, how you doing?
Hey, Jeff. It's nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. Kenon just got back from weeks of vacation in Honolulu and then Disneyland. So he is well rested and ready to pod.
There are a number of errors in that statement that I'm not even going to correct.
You did go to Honolulu and Disneyland, didn't you?
I'm just going to leave it there.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, great.
So we're going to get started talking a little bit about a news story. And this is a particularly interesting one because, as we've talked about on this podcast before, we have a desperate need for more housing supply. There's not a lot available for sale. Housing prices are going up like crazy. And yet, in spite of that, there's an article from CNBC here that says builders are pulling back as more homebuyers are priced out of the market. Kenon, what's going on here? Why are builders pulling back when we so desperately need housing?
Well, this does seem kind of surprising, knowing the need for more supply out there in the market. But according to the article, some of the stats are that mortgage applications to purchase newly built homes dropped nearly 24% year over year in June. And then the other stat is that the number of building permits is half what it normally is. And both of those things are concerning because we need a lot more supply out there. But the impact of rising costs in lumber, in labor, and all of these things seems like that skyrocket that happened caused a shock to the system. And even though some of that seems to be headed in the right direction in terms of building materials costs leveling out or going back down, that has not made it all the way to the consumer yet. So from an affordability standpoint, it's still super problematic for folks.
Hard to build. I have a little personal experience with this. I think, one of the building materials that we know, prices have spiked for significantly is lumber. I don't have the exact stat in front of me, but I think lumber prices actually tripled over the course of 2020 and into 2021. The invisible hand of the market began to act, and I saw it myself. I have a lake home in northern Wisconsin. It's a 2.5 hour drive from our house in Minneapolis. And we started noticing about maybe 5-6 months ago that tons and tons of forests on our drive up were being completely razed and clear cut. And these were residential lots, of people who had old growth trees and really nice, beautiful forests. It's kind of, the North Woods of Wisconsin. That's what it's all about. Mm-hmm. And people were essentially, what we could deduce is just cashing in on lumber prices. They're like, well, I could get triple the price for my trees that I could a year ago. Please, Mr. Logger, come to my residential land and take all of my lumber.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is something I would not see in California, I'm sure.
It wouldn't be allowed there, probably.
And so, I mean, is that allowed? Like, or is that like a black market, logging thing going on?
It's a great question. If I was a better podcaster, I would have researched that in advance, but I don't know.
I forgot. I'm not
just,
supposed to ask questions.
let's pretend for sake of fun that it is black market.
It's black market logging. Yeah. Yeah, you should do some investigative journalism while you're up there at your cabin,
Yeah, I
See
should.
how,
Yeah, it's just I'm so busy relaxing and swimming and stuff like that.
right.
But
Yeah,
when I'm not doing that, I'll for sure get on it.
You could be making hard money, cash money. All right.
Well, interesting times. Hopefully, the cost of building materials will start to regulate a bit, and we'll see a pickup in new construction here later this year. Fingers crossed.
I thought the one thing that was interesting in this story too was, and I've been hearing it anecdotally actually here in California, is that the same challenge around hiring, the labor shortage. I think we've seen the numbers on unemployment, as something around 9 million, 9.5 million folks still unemployed. And yet there's also 9 point something million jobs available. And so what's going on there? Is there a weird match between, the skill sets of those unemployed versus the jobs that are available? I think a lot of people are exploring that conversation right now, but the building industry is not immune from the challenges around hiring and labor shortage and cost of labor. And so that's certainly being felt here in California. And the same sort of thing that's driving the exodus of homeowners, leaving California and moving other places for, more affordable housing and different lifestyle, seems to be also affecting, independent builders as well, where it's too competitive to make a living, here based on things like the affordability. So it's definitely creating an impact.
Yep. Well, something we will be monitoring closely. What the market desperately needs is more supply. So something we will watch. That was fun, but what might be a little funner is if we did a real estate joke of the pod.
Oh, right. We're going to do that this time?
If you're okay with it.
Yeah, let's try something new.
As always, this is an original joke. I did take a couple liberties. This is not really a real estate or mortgage joke, but it is set in a bank. So will you let that one slide?
Close enough. Okay. We do use the word money in it, no?
Okay. So there's this bank, right? And today is actually a pretty big day at this bank because they're training a whole bunch of new bank tellers, big group of them, showing up for their first day of introductory training. And towards the beginning of the session, the trainer has them do an icebreaker. Have you done an icebreaker before? You know what these things are?
Yes, I have. Some better than others.
Yeah, some better than others. This one was at first pretty normal, but got weird. So everyone's got to go around and say something interesting about themselves, right? And most people are saying normal stuff like, well, I have a puppy and he's cute, and I like to cook, and just pretty basic, mundane stuff. Nothing too controversial, right? And it comes to this one guy, and he's like, well, the most interesting thing about me is that I take everything literally. Oh, that's kind of weird. So the group leader, the trainer, is like, can you expand on that a little bit? Like, what do you mean you take everything literally? And the guy's like, well, I actually literally mean what I said. I take everything literally. Things like jokes, sarcasm, phrases with multiple meanings, they don't make any sense to me at all. So simple as that. Yeah. And the group leader's like, okay, well, kind of weird. Actually, maybe that'll help you in this role. The customer service is all about authenticity. Maybe actually taking everything literally will be good for you. So let's continue with the training. So they finish the icebreaker session, they do their preliminary training, and that's it. They go out on the floor and it's time for them to start their new roles as bank tellers. And so the trainer is off to the side, kind of just watching the bank tellers as they do their work. And he's just offering coaching opportunities and helping them improve, right? Things are going along pretty smooth, but then he starts eavesdropping in on an interaction that the literal guy is having with a customer at the counter. Okay. And he notices
he's literally having right now. Yeah.
Exactly. He notices that the literal guy is now saying everything in a very thick Southern accent. Wow. That's weird. The literal guy's like, well, man, you see here, there are several types of checking and savings accounts here at this bank. Let me walk you through them. And the guy's like, wow. The trainer's like, this is not what I expected, because he was not Southern when we were doing the icebreaker or the training.
Mm.
That's weird.
That's weird. Yeah.
It's super weird. But the customer seems happy. He's being friendly. So the trainer decides to walk over to the other side of the lobby and go check out some other people and do some other coaching. He's off for a few minutes. He starts walking back towards the literal guy's side of the lobby. And now he sees the literal guy jumping over the counter and pushing the customer on the ground. Wow.
Not good.
That's crazy, right?
That's nuts. Yeah.
That's not good.
That's literally awful.
So the trainer goes running over and he's like, what are you doing? First, why did you start speaking in a Southern accent? And more importantly, why did you push this nice lady over? The literal guy stops and goes, what? First she wanted withdrawal, and then she told me to check her balance. Do you get it?
Yeah. Yes.
He takes everything literally. He gets confused by multiple meanings. Check your balance.
Got it. Yeah.
Cool.
Good. Yeah.
Thanks.
It's a gift that keeps giving.
Okay, we are joined now by Pat McLoughlin, who is the CEO and co-founder of a very cool company called Diggs. You can check them out online at diggs.co, and their mission is to empower people to make the best financial decisions around their largest asset, their home. They've got a couple products that they have available in the market that drive towards that. And we're going to talk to Pat today about his journey and how Diggs got to where it is today. So Pat, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So let's start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about your origin story, and what was kind of this flashbulb moment that led you to want to start Diggs and start getting involved in, tools designed to help homeowners manage their finances relative to their home. How did that come to be?
Yeah. So for me, this really came from my friends asking me a lot of questions about home ownership. I was one of the first ones to buy a home in my friend group. 25 years old. It was actually a 2-flat in Chicago. And I learned a lot of this on the fly, did a lot of research, actually was reading books, not as much the internet, about real estate investing. And a lot of my friends were asking me questions afterwards about how to save for down payment, 20%. And I was telling them what I thought were pretty basic things. So I found that I kind of became this expert in real estate or buying a home just because I had done it before. And that's really where I started to notice that there was something here. So I was starting to talk to my co-founder, Chad, at the time, and he was renting, also saving for a home, and was also had this misconception about the 20% rule. So I was talking to him about it, and we came up with this idea to really help people learn about the buying process by helping them save. So the two things that we noticed that were the biggest barriers to home ownership was, number one, the knowledge of what's out there, how to get into a home, how to actually start this process. But people think that they can solve that on their own. They think that they can go out online and read these articles and do it themselves. But we decided to attach the savings mechanism to that. So what we helped do is create this product that helped people save for a home. And during that period of time, we would spoon feed them information about buying a home, let them know that there's other low down payment options for first-time home buyers. And that was the start of Digs. So at the time, it was more of a savings app for first-time home buyers. And as we started to dig more and more, we saw that this was a huge opportunity for us to serve a community outside the transaction. Real estate, the industry is typically all around lead generation for real estate agents or mortgage lenders, all around trying to serve them at that moment in time that they're ready to buy. And when it comes to the moments before and the moments after, there's not a lot of tools and services out there. So we evolved away from just being a first-time home buyer savings app into really serving those two aspects. Number one is like the 7 years that it takes to save for a home. That's kind of the average. And then those years afterwards that you're a homeowner and it's your biggest asset, but you're not interested in selling it. You're not interested in really moving at this moment in time, but how do we provide tools and services around that?
That's super cool. And I was seeing, one of the stats was that, with where the millennial, generation is in terms of, the size or the percentage of the population and the average age, it's like right at that first time home buying, a point right now where like one of the biggest waves kind of coming in is like, people right in that sweet spot of potentially buying their first home. How informed is that group, I guess, or how is there a way to measure how educated or not educated, those folks are on the home buying experience? And how are you going to solve that?
Yeah, I think that really the origin story that I just described is a perfect example of how people don't really have all the facts. There's a lot of information out there that people can find, but them actually knowing about it themselves sometimes just takes talking to people. So I don't think a lot of people really look at their home as an asset. They look at it as their home, the roof over their head, something in lieu of an apartment. It's kind of the way that they look at it. But the reality is the home is the biggest purchase. It's the biggest debt. It's the biggest asset. And it's the biggest monthly expenditure for the average person. And I think if we change that dialogue and help them kind of start to think about the home as an asset, as a financial instrument where they can actually better their lives, that's really what we're trying to do. So it starts early. It starts with, like I said, the savings product, but it extends far into their homeownership journey is after they become a homeowner, continuing to serve that clientele and make sure that they're not just getting the postcard in the mail that says, I'm your realtor, happy July 4th, but actually provide tools and services that they actually need.
I kind of like those 4th of July cards. So let's not hate on them too bad.
We all need a calendar magnet.
The best part is that you get like 12 from 12 different realtors. That's really useful.
Yeah, I saw a really good one the other day. It was a really good photo. It just made me feel like I was really connected to them.
So did you end up deciding to use that real estate agent from here on forward because of that photo? See?
No,
there you
go.
I
did not. No.
Okay, there you go. So we've proved that model doesn't work. Pat, you talked a little bit about, how this, the home is really the single most important, financial asset in most people's lives. I think that's certainly true. And right now is a really interesting time for those assets because home values are just skyrocketing. It really doesn't matter what market it is. Certainly some markets more than others. But how does that environment where prices are really rising, how does that impact your customers in the Digs product? What are you seeing there?
Yeah, so our homeowner product sends, I guess it's two ways. Number one is the people saving for a home have to save. I mean, that's just generally what you're seeing, and you're seeing them priced out. There's a lot of alternative financing models that are coming out. I'm sure that you're aware of a lot of them, but for the first-time home buyer, it's tough. It is. But for the homeowner, it's something that they're seeing their home values increase a lot. But those numbers don't really mean a lot to me, I don't think. It's more about them being one input into what's their equity. So the home value is, a big piece of now what is your equity. It's a pretty simple math equation. Your home value minus your mortgage is your equity. And I think that's the more important number for these homeowners to be looking at is what can we do with this equity? We have $100,000 tied up into my home. How can I better myself? What kind of products and services can I maybe tap into to maybe do that renovation or pay for something? I think that we're going to see a lot more of that. We're just beginning to see that. And I think that we'll see a lot more of that in the years to come, where you got these low interest rates, people, enrolling in a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, sub 3%. You could even call it like a forever rate. And then these home prices that are increasing in value so quickly. So you have these homeowners that have all this equity and maybe not a lot of personal savings, maybe not a lot of retirement savings, but being able to figure out how to actually play around with that is, I think, going to be a very interesting thing in the years to come. I think that's what we're starting to think about at Diggs.
As you mentioned, there's a lot of new alternative financing startups, coming out, helping with down payment assistance, or folks like EarnUp helping with ways to get creative around payments. I guess I'm curious, as a founder right now, being a founder and startup in this environment where there's quite a bit of interest in the real estate space from VCs and new ideas out there. How are you? I guess what's your philosophy around, first of all, getting consumers' attention, and making sure that you're not only creating value for them, but also thinking about how you're growing, your company?
Yeah, so that's a good question. That brings me to something that you're aware of and probably going to ask shortly. Is we recently got acquired by OJO Labs, which is another startup larger than us, and one of many reasons why we got acquired was these eyeballs, being able to see a lot more consumers. We started out as a direct-to-consumer product, and when we started out, we, like any company, launched, got some traction, all that stuff. But then you start to think about, how am I going to get to 1 million users? And so we pivoted to a B2B2C business model where we would actually partner with real estate agents and mortgage lenders to really engage with their customers in the moments that they're not ready to buy. That way they can keep their brand present, use our product, and then we would really nudge them back to that person. So we did do that, but ultimately speaking, you get a conflict of interest when you do that. We were building products for lenders. We were building products for real estate agents, and they really wanted certain things being built, but you kind of know what in the back of your head, what's best for the consumer. So when we met OJO, that was really, I think it just kind of completed what we were trying to do, where they had all these consumers, that they have a top of funnel search platform that gets tens of millions of views per month and creates thousands of leads per day. And those leads all need places to go, especially if they're not ready to engage with an agent. So this allowed us to really start to really focus back on the consumer again and not have that conflict of interest. So it's been an exciting time. Our mission aligns a lot with them, and I'm happy to talk more about that.
Oh, that's awesome. And I've actually heard it's OJO, not OJO, right?
Yeah, OJO Labs. Yeah.
OJO Labs. We certainly heard that name and know they've done some acquisitions, and we're aware, obviously, of their acquisition of you guys, but would love to learn a little bit more about them. You mentioned that they're kind of incorporating you into this sort of B2C funnel that they already have. Can you talk a little bit more about that funnel and how you guys fit?
Yeah, so they really are at the intersection of this AI, machine intelligence and the human experience. So what they do is they have this platform that meets a consumer at the early stages, and then they provide personal guidance throughout that process. So the easiest way to think about it is that they're able to really meet you during the search phase, but then decide, okay, you're not ready to buy for whatever reason. How can we help you get to that point? So they learn more about you during this time period, and they have a concierge along this whole process that is able to guide you through this. So we fit in really well because a lot of what they're working on is the transaction. It goes back to kind of what I was talking about before, where a lot of real estate focuses on the transaction. That's where the money is. But we're able to really complete them in the moments leading up to and the moments following that transaction, so that they can continue to engage with that customer, learn more about them, so that they can actually make better and better recommendations throughout the lifetime of that consumer.
So So with that pairing and, thinking about the savings, the financial aspects of someone getting ready, but then also the understanding of real estate itself, understanding, if you're thinking about it as an asset, right? Like am I buying in an area that's going to appreciate? There's a lot of other things that aren't just your financial readiness, but where does it go from there once you have your mortgage, once you own that home? I mean, there's companies that seem to be just focusing on the financial piece, and there's companies that seem to be just focusing on the collateral piece. How do you do both? And do you see yourself more as kind of one or the other? And then and then do you see any challenges out there today with friction? Like once you get someone ready, right? Once they then get into the actual mortgage origination process, are you seeing some gaps there that need to be solved? Where there's kind of still like a rude awakening, if you will, once someone goes to actually get a loan?
Yeah, I think there's two parts to that question. So I'll try to tackle them independently. The first part was really, I think, can be best. What are we focused on? I think that it's focusing on what the consumer needs. And this kind of aligns with what OJO's mission is, which is really serving 100 out of 100. So when you meet someone, instead of only focusing on the people that are ready to get connected with an agent now, ready to buy now, how do you provide tools and services outside that transaction? And when you actually look at it as that kind of social responsibility, especially when it relates to life's biggest asset, it's not as much, are we focused on the financial or are you focused on this or that? It's really, you're focused on the consumer and providing that best service to the consumer. So I would say that what we're doing at Diggs, Diggs by OJO, we really are focused on the financial component, but I think it touches so many different layers of what OJO is already doing and other services that they're building or currently offering, that I think we're serving a lot of things. And they do classify themselves as kind of a guided marketplace for that reason. So hopefully that answers your first question. The second question, I think, was a little bit more geared towards the classification of what we're doing. Is it more like a consumer financial product, or is it more of a mortgage origination software? Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. I'm going to make sure I understood that. Yeah. Right now, I definitely think we're more in the realm of the consumer financial product, where we're PFM, personal finance manager. That's where I think we are now, and it's by design. So as I mentioned, we really focus on the consumer outside this transaction, and if they're outside the transaction and they're not really looking to sell, there's not a lot you can do other than provide the tools and services that help them make better decisions. When they're ready to make a decision and they're ready to refinance or ready to get a mortgage or ready to talk to an agent, that's really when I think you jump over to that classification of are we more of origination software? So we are starting to kind of dabble in that, whether it be a partnership with an existing POS that's out there, or building something ourselves. But we collect a lot of rich information about the consumer during this phase where they're not being sold to. So we're helping them save, they're connecting bank accounts, we're helping them monitor their credit, we get to kind of monitor that. So all these tools are the same exact information that is needed to originate a mortgage. So instead of looking at it as like, okay, you're ready to originate a mortgage, let's start at square one, we're able to take and kind of all this information that we've gathered, present it to you in a way that here's what your mortgage could be, or here's what happens if you do refinance, and have it be extremely personalized to that consumer. So I think that the two will really intersect pretty soon, but right now I would kind of be more in the PFM family is my opinion.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so maybe to close this out, can you give us a little, I guess, picture of what you guys are focused on for the next 12 months? Where's Diggs going next, and what are you hoping to unlock?
So right now, it's an exciting time. We got acquired about 9 months ago. And as you know, like starting a company, you're focused a lot outward, whether it be fundraising, whether it be making partnerships, or what's happening in the market, all these things. And we're starting to shift a little bit now over those last several months to being inward, and how can what we're doing and what OJO is doing really, really mesh well, integrate in a very easy to understand way. And it touches so many aspects of the company, whether it be mortgage, agent matching, brand. So over this next year, you'll see a lot that we start to dabble in with mortgage. And and things that we're starting to, figure out how these two products don't feel like siloed products, where it's not Diggs and OJO, where these products do really talk to each other, and you start to get this cohesive consumer experience. So it's fun to do that. I think it's a whole new set of challenges, but it's a fun stage that we're in right now.
That's awesome. Well, we look forward to seeing the journey progress, and thanks a lot for joining us.